KION's Stephanie Aceves was in Watsonville today with how the organization here is trying to raise money now and recover from their losses. Just, you feel bad for them, Stephanie. Series of homeless encampments along the San Benito River in Hollister. A man in Soledad in jail tonight after being arrested on multiple charges in connection to a structure fire this afternoon. Making Salinas proud here, Gerardo Contreras Gonzalez. He's going to be boxing tomorrow at New York's Madison Square Garden.
Veronica.
Hi, strong message not only for this business owner, but all businesses in Monterey County. Not only was a temporary restraining order granted today, the DA's office has also filed a civil lawsuit against the Tuck Box for violating the state and local health. Law enforcement, including the FBI, now investigating 5 different crime scenes, all locations. The National Weather Service has issued a heat advisory that's starting on Wednesday for all portions. And here at home in tonight's KION for Kids, it's aimed at all the little girls on the Central Coast. By Santa Cruz police for staying on the beach after hours. They weren't supposed to. City ordinance state.
Veronica.
Yeah, Aaron, this was the outcome that law enforcement said they had hoped to avoid. They wanted things to end peacefully. That clearly was not the case today. Things ending violently with intense exchange of gunfire at about 4 o'clock. Up there. We don't need to tell you that the air show is this weekend because you have already heard it. Let's go ahead and take a look at these planes that are up here. These are the maneuvers, the moves, the figures that they're going to be doing out here this weekend. In Santa Cruz, they have so many people, the community coming together here, not just federal dollars that are going to be coming in to help support those families that need the help the most right now, but families themselves. Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks are coming together as a nonprofit to make sure that the funding is there for anyone who needs the assistance. Now, later in the day, the president is not going to be coming to Monterey County, which did see a significant amount of damage. That's not to say they didn't, but the president today, his time limited. So we're going to be seeing the president there getting off of Air Force One. We'll be addressing the local leaders on the ground, state representatives, again, who put out the call for the president to come to California, witness the damage himself, get a firsthand look of all the devastation across the Central Coast. There he is meeting with our local representatives, the governor, who again was essential in bringing him here today. And more importantly, the urge was to meet with everyday people, business owners, families who have been in the dark for days. In Santa Cruz, where he's going to be arriving momentarily, there were so many people who had to evacuate because of fears of flooding in the Soquel Creek area. There was warnings. And people just didn't imagine that they were going to be seeing these monster waves just crashing into the Capitola Wharf. And it's an area that's very historic. And people immediately, it's filled with tourism. It lives off of it. And immediately people were quick to pick up the pieces, literally, of their businesses the very next day. We also saw U.S. Senator Alex Padilla write out to the president, and I believe he is going to be among those local leaders today, meeting with the president and business owners as they tour and they survey the damage in Santa Cruz and in Watsonville. Watsonville, another area that had one of the evacuation orders last for what seemed like an entire week, for people who live in areas that are threatened by the Pajaro River, areas that have in the past flooded severely. We showed you comparisons of flooding that occurred back in 1995. It is 6:43 right now on Wake Up, and we have a special guest right now, Pet of the Week. We have Gunther joining us this morning. Tony Veretta here with South Monterey County Animal Rescue. Tell us a little bit more about this guy. He seems to be prepared for the cold weather right now, but he needs a nice warm home. Tonight, KION's Anna Torrea, she's live for us over at El Estero Park, which has been serving as a reunification location situation. Parents there anxious to see their students. Anna, I know I was there with you earlier this afternoon. I could see that parents were visibly shaken, some others crying, but also telling us that police did a good job handling the situation.
KION News Channel 46 starts now with breaking news.
We're cautiously optimistic that the worst part is behind. The waters recede, but we'll see the full extent of the damage to the homes, the businesses, and the farms and ranches. And we know some of the destruction is going to take years to fully recover and rebuild.
Good evening. President Joe Biden departing the Golden State on Air Force One within the past hour. The president arriving in California this morning for a firsthand look at the costly damage in our region brought on by weeks of severe winter storms. This is aerial footage taken as the president flew in a helicopter from Moffett Field in Mountain View to the Watsonville Municipal Airport this morning. The atmospheric river is bringing record-breaking rainfall in parts of our state over the last 3 weeks. The president getting a first-hand look at all the damage. The historic storms blamed for at least 21 deaths and widespread damage in 41 of California's 58 counties. The total cost of the storm damage and the cleanup yet to be tallied. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight for KION News at 5. I'm Veronica Macias. President Joe Biden surveying the damaged areas of the Central Coast earlier today. Reporter Anna Torrea live for us now over in Mountain View to tell us more about the moment the president arrived. Anna, I know he was surrounded by a lot of local state representatives.
Hey, good evening, Veronica. That's right. The president meeting with a lot of our state leaders here. And like you mentioned, not too long ago, he took off. Air Force One was behind me here at Moffett Airfield not too long ago. Now, the president did not meet with the press. He actually quickly boarded onto Marine One, taking off. Then he was also joined by FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell and Governor Gavin Newsom also up in the air with him, surveying the damages from Marine One. The president then landing into Watsonville, where he then traveled to Capitola and met with business owners there.
It's not as obvious from the air just how much damage has been done. We flew over the entire area and parts of the state, they got more rainfall in a single day than they get in an entire year.
Previous to this, these storms, they started out with landslides, then the drought, then the fires, homes lost, lives injured, personal economies wiped out, and now this all over again.
And like you mentioned earlier, Veronica, we do know that the storm killing at least 21 people. That's according to the governor. He announced that today. The storm impacting 41 counties in our state. And I did check for new numbers with Santa Cruz County about the cost of damages. County reps tell me that number is now about $55 million, but they are expecting it to go up. Reporting live in Mountain View, Anna Torrea, KION News Channel 46.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, the president emphasizing that we have to come back stronger, investing in our infrastructure. Last week, Governor Gavin Newsom visited the Capitola Wharf area to see the storm damage. He has said before that the president approved the federal dollars even before he could finish asking the question. The White House now updating the California disaster declaration within the last 24 hours, making more assistance available for people now trying to rebuild as a result of the flooding and the slides that we've seen. Under the major disaster declaration President Biden initially issued over the weekend, people dealing with storm damage in Monterey, Santa Cruz, and other designated counties can apply to get 75% of their repair costs covered. Now, that's been amended under the new order. People can apply to get 100% of the total eligible costs covered. People, though, have 60 days from the start of the weather incident, December 27th, to file those claims. People waited outside the Watsonville airport to get a glimpse of the president arriving late this morning. KION's Carl Cook joining us now from the municipal airport in Watsonville, where he heard from people pleased to see the president.
That's right, Veronica. Those people who waited outside were excited to see the president arrive in their community. Many of those people were also impressed and shocked to see the amount of security detail that was here at the airport. Now, people started arriving hours before the president's arrival. They stood outside to get a front row view of the president's helicopter. Now, security was in full swing waiting for the president to arrive, too. Many people wanted to be here to experience the moment a sitting president visited the area. The last time this happened was in 1989 during the Loma Prieta earthquake.
Oh, it's like I'm so processing it. Like, it's pretty cool. Like, I think it's gonna be crazier than this. It's excited to see more. You know, the more it comes, it's gonna be better, I think.
I'm just filled with a lot of emotion and brought to tears at the enormity of having the President of the United States landing here in our Watsonville.
Now, although they couldn't get to see the president in person, people were still able to wave to him in the motorcade. Now, those here in Watsonville hope they gave President Biden a warm welcome here onto the Central Coast. Reporting from Watsonville, I'm Carl Cook, KION, News Channel 46.
Thank you, Carl. You don't see it every day. The president left Watsonville Airport at about 1:30 this afternoon before heading toward Capitola. And while we might be getting a break from the rain here on the Central Coast, we're seeing sun up in San Francisco, parts of the city getting hit by more heavy rain and flooding overnight. Last week, we learned all the storms actually brought most of California out of the severe drought conditions. So now we're going to turn things over to Weather Authority weather forecaster Erica Brattin for the update on this Thursday.
It is Thursday, and that means it is time for your drought update and more good news to share with you this week. We are no longer seeing any extreme drought conditions anywhere in this state. The last little sliver that we had of extreme drought was in Northern California. That has now been decreased to severe. And in fact, in Northwest California here, we are not seeing any drought conditions. So great news for that area. Also seeing an improvement from severe to moderate in the Central Valley, Sacramento Valley locations, and even in Southern California, we went from moderate to, or I should say severe to moderate. So overall, really good news. That rain certainly did help. Even though it caused some damages across the area, we definitely needed that rain for our drought situation. Locally though, no changes. In southeastern portions of San Benito County, we are still in severe drought, while the northern portion is in moderate. All of Santa Cruz County is in moderate. Most of Monterey County is in moderate drought conditions, while the southeastern portion of Monterey County still remains in severe drought. But again, hopefully we still continue to see a little bit of rain in our area, so maybe next week we might see some improvements locally. Here's a look at what we can expect. A cold night ahead, but we will see sunny and cool days after this. So the last little rain we had moved through our area this morning, that's going to be the last of the rain we're going to see for at least a little while. We're going to continue to see dry weather into the weekend. I'll have your full forecast in just a bit.
Going over to San Benito County, Board of Supervisors in San Benito proclaiming now their own state of emergency in response to the recent storms. And that's because they're not one of the counties included under the president's disaster declaration. There's only 6. During the month of January, the county, though, did have multiple issues, mandatory evacuation orders, as well as warnings. The storm causing flooding, road washouts, and power outages for people. So why issue a state of emergency? It allows San Benito to request disaster assistance funding under the California Disaster Assistance Act, which is different from the latest disaster declaration. San Benito County says they're still assessing the extent of their damages. And San Benito County now lifting evacuation warnings. Those warnings had been issued for the following area: Lover's Lane from San Felipe Road from Highway 156 to county lines. Also the Lake Road area plus Dunville Estates and portions of Shore Road from San Felipe Road to Fraser Lake Road. Tonight, actor Alec Baldwin facing serious legal troubles. Prosecutors announcing that they will file criminal charges against him in connection with a deadly shooting on a movie set last year. Michael George explains.
Alec Baldwin's lawyer says they'll fight and they'll win after the Santa Fe district attorney announced involuntary manslaughter charges against the actor for the 2021 shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of the Western film Rust.
What we're talking about here is not an intentional killing. We're talking about a potentially lawful act that you engage in, but you were criminally negligent.
Movie armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed will also be charged. The district attorney released a statement saying, quote, if any one of these three people, Baldwin, Gutierrez-Reed, or assistant director David Halls, had done their job, Helena Hutchins would be alive today. It's that simple. The evidence clearly shows a pattern of criminal disregard for safety on the Rust film set. Prosecutors reached a plea deal with Halls for negligent use of a deadly weapon.
This is both surprising and not. A number of criminal defense attorneys were saying not only is there a lack of intent here, but we're not sure that we see that level of criminal negligence. On the other hand, what we saw from the prosecutor, I think, is that this was being planned for a while.
During an October 2021 rehearsal, Baldwin was holding the prop gun when it discharged a round, killing Hutchins and injuring director Joel Souza. In a statement, the actor's attorney called the charges a terrible miscarriage of justice, saying Mr. Baldwin had no reason to believe there was a live bullet in the gun or anywhere on the movie set. Gutierrez-Reed also denies any wrongdoing. Prosecutors say they'll formally file charges by the end of the month. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
And if the case makes it to trial and the two are convicted, Baldwin and Gutierrez-Reed will each face up to 18 months in prison. It's a moment that has gone viral on social media platforms. A gallery owner in San Francisco facing misdemeanor battery charges now after he was caught on camera spraying a homeless woman with a hose last week. An eyewitness capturing the video of this incident on their cell phone, immediately going viral and sparking widespread outrage over how the woman was treated. Since it happened, the gallery owner has issued several apologies. San Francisco's district attorney announcing that the charges against him have been filed. If convicted, he faces up to 6 months in county jail plus a $2,000 fine. After an hours-long discussion last night over in the city of Marina, they're now one step closer to getting a second card room after the city council voted late last night. The decision was passed in a 3-2 vote, amending Marina Municipal Code, despite people voicing their strong opposition to the plan. People's preliminary concerns are the possibility of driving Marina's first card room out of business. They fear a second card room could lead to more crime in the area, and they're also worried about the lack of consideration for Native tribes in the industry and the lack of study that these types of establishments have on communities of color. The proposed complex will include a 10-table card room, a restaurant, and some community space. This motion will bring Marina back to their now maximum of 2 card rooms, as Mortimer's closed back in 2015. Still ahead here at 5, the Department of Agriculture now changing their regulations when it comes to organic food for the first time in decades. In tonight's Ag Report, what it will mean for businesses and when they have to comply. Plus, the San Jose Sharks taken to the ice at the SAP Center. Our sports director Maxwell Glenn will have a breakdown of last night's game for you. And right now, taking a live look from our Mount Toro camera in Salinas. Clouds are moving in here. It's looking a little pink. Nice sunset. We're going to have your full weather forecast when we come back right here on KION News at 5.
Get the app.
Ahead on Wake Up, getting ready to celebrate the new year safely. The new concerns about children and Omicron cases. Plus, some repeat offenders may be staying in prison despite their good behavior and earned credits. That's at least for now. The latest on the ruling to stop potential early releases from prison.
Drop. Yo, he's buried, he's buried, he's buried.
And a fun day on the slopes turning into a scary situation. How a pro skier was buried in the snow before being rescued from his friends.
And finally, a much welcome break from the rain. A look at when precipitation returns and what you can expect for this holiday weekend.
This is Wake Up on KION News Channel 546.
Good morning. We begin this half hour with that alarming spike in hospitalizations for children. Nationwide, the number of children in the hospital with COVID, that's up 74%, and that's only within the last month. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Wake Up. It is 6:30 today on Wake Up. I'm Veronica Macias. The World Health Organization is now warning that the combination of Delta and the Omicron variants could create a tsunami of new infections. Nikki Batiste today reports from New York.
As Omicron cases skyrocket, more kids are falling ill.
Our numbers are rising, and I'm not sure that we've seen the worst of that yet.
Already across the country, the average number of currently hospitalized kids with confirmed or suspected COVID is up 74% in the past month. In 13 states, the number of children hospitalized with COVID has more than doubled. Much of that jump has taken place during the holidays.
How are you and your colleagues feeling as kids get ready to go back to school next week?
Yeah, I think we're bracing for having a very busy January.
The good news is that scientists say the data so far shows Omicron is causing milder symptoms in children than the Delta variant. And New York officials say that every child between 5 and 11 years old recently hospitalized with COVID was not fully vaccinated.
I really do hope that parents understand that the best thing they can do to protect their children from severe illness is to get them vaccinated.
Also today, an explanation from the CDC director on why the agency's new guidelines of a shortened isolation period following a COVID infection did not call for getting a negative test.
We did not include a testing requirement in isolation because we were not clear. It was not clear what we would do with the information when we had it, and because the FDA has not authorized that antigen test for that use. Happy New Year!
In Times Square, preparations are still underway for New Year's Eve, and nationwide there's a similar.
For families with unvaccinated children, children too young to be vaccinated who want to celebrate the new year and get together with friends and family, what's your advice?
With this particular variant, this Omicron variant, it is much more contagious, so it makes those things a little bit more challenging to do safely, especially in an indoor space.
Again, that was Nikki Batiste reporting this morning. Well, here's a live look from New York City. There's an even greater push right now to protect children there. The state reported nearly 70,000 new positive tests in the past 24 hours. That's a 65% increase in just one single day. That's also a new record. Well, breaking this morning, Johnson & Johnson says its booster dose protects against severe illness from the COVID-19 Omicron variant. One study from South Africa shows vaccine effectiveness rose 84% 14 to 27 days after the booster shot. Then the effectiveness was 85%. That's 1 to 2 months after the shot. The company says the studies are on its way to be peer-reviewed in a journal. Well, closer to home now, Monterey taking extra steps now, precautions for New Year's Day. That's if you're planning to attend First Night Monterey on New Year's Eve. Now you have to be vaccinated or provide a negative COVID test here in order to attend. Well, organizers say they want to avoid a super spreader event. If you show proof of vaccination or that negative test, you get a wristband. So anyone without a wristband or a special 2022 First Night Monterey pin, you're not going to be allowed to participate if you don't have proof of your negative test or that vaccine proof. Now to holiday travel, air travel. It's a nightmare across the entire country. More than 1,000 flights have now been canceled on Wednesday and thousands more delayed. Major airlines here say they're struggling with staffing shortages because of COVID. Plus also the extreme weather that's hitting parts of the U.S. right now, that's not helping. Here in California, Governor Gavin Newsom, he's triggering an emergency response after the rain and the snow poured down on much of the state of California. And Californians, they're still facing major impacts because of this winter storm. In a statement, the governor is saying in part, quote, "At my direction, the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services has activated the State Operations Center to monitor storm conditions and coordinate all necessary assistance." He also says he discourages people from driving on mountain roads until those conditions out there improve. Well, the governor says he's also working to mitigate other impacts like power outages to restore power faster to people, as tens of thousands of people still without power in Placer County. People who live there say those outages are expected to last until next month. Sounds like a long time to be without power. Weather Authority weather forecaster Courtney Aiken tracking conditions for us here on the Central Coast. It's been chilly.
It's been chilly and it's been rainy. Thankfully, though, you can put that umbrella away for a couple of days. But even yesterday here on the Central Coast, we saw our very own share of severe weather. I did want to, though, this morning, so that is good news, not nose, for those of you who are commuting. Veronica?
Your nose is going to be cold out there this morning. Thanks, Courtney.
Yes.
Well, take a look at your screen. Right now, Salinas police say they're looking for 3 people who allegedly stole $1,000 worth of merchandise from a store, and now police are asking for the public's help in identifying them, and also the car that they used to get away. If you have any information, you're please asked to call Salinas Police, the number there at the bottom of your screen. Now to a pause in the state's prison system. Repeat offenders no longer have the possibility of being released early from prison. That's at least for now. This after a California judge halted the state's plans to potentially speed up their early release. Under the 3 strikes law, the plan would have released repeat offenders with serious and violent criminal histories. That's if they showed good conduct in prison. Well, 28 of the California's 58 district attorneys now moved to block that rule. A Sacramento County judge imposed a temporary restraining order to bar the change until the next hearing that's scheduled for next month. Well, making headlines across the U.S., Ghislaine Maxwell, a British socialite and a former girlfriend of deceased billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, is found guilty in a sexual abuse case. After deliberating for about 40 hours over 6 days, a jury in a New York federal court found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of sex trafficking minor girls for Jeffrey Epstein over 2 decades. 60-year-old Maxwell has been found guilty of 5 federal charges. They include sex trafficking of a minor, transporting a minor with the intent to engage in a criminal sexual activity, and 3 related counts of conspiracy. She's been acquitted, though, on the charge of enticing a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. Maxwell faces up to 65 years in prison.
This case sends a message that anyone who conspires with a sexual predator to sex traffic underage girls will risk being prosecuted, convicted, and potentially being sentenced to many years in prison.
U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, commended the bravery of the girls, now grown women, who says they stepped out of the shadows and into the courtroom. Taking a live look right now at the White House this morning. The time is 6:39. President Joe Biden is slated to hold a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin today. Well, a national security spokesperson says they'll talk about a range of topics here, including upcoming diplomatic engagements in January. A main point in this stalemate is Ukraine. Russia currently has 100,000 troops there. Intelligence officials worry that Russia could launch an attack there soon. Biden warned Putin against such an attack just earlier this month. 2 skiers here rescued by a friend. He was buried in the snow. Coming up here on Wake Up, the message from the pro skier, as he says he was lucky to get out of this one, and it could happen, he says, to anyone. Plus, minimum wage is going up for some places. What changes could be happening for larger employers in the state of California? And getting ready to pop that bubbly, or maybe not, how it could be harder to find for Americans. That bottle of champagne, anything from shipping and boxes going up and making harder to celebrate.
And here on the Central Coast, the rain is gone, but not for good. A look at your holiday weekend and when you could see more moisture. Here's a live look at our Mount Toro. Sun starting to make its way up into the sky, and you'll see sunny skies into this afternoon. It's about 6:41. We'll be right back.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us back. It is 6:43 right now on Wake Up, and we have a special guest right now, Pet of the Week. We have Gunther joining us this morning. Tony Veretta here with South Monterey County Animal Rescue. Tell us a little bit more about this guy. He seems to be prepared for the cold weather right now, but he needs a nice warm home.
Good morning, Veronica. Yes, he does. This is Gunther. Gunther is a 3-year-old Chihuahua that we got from Hitchcock Animal Services, and we have foster Maria and David are the fosters, and they're actually on their college break. They're fostering this puppy. So he is fully vaccinated and just a perfect addition to your tree, which you probably have the gifts, but maybe just an addition to your Christmas tree.
So tell me a little bit about his story.
You know, a lot of times we get pets that are strays or sometimes surrenders. In this case here, we selected him out of the shelter. Very, very shy, very reclusive, and it's been a little while for the fosters just to kind of bring him out of it. But he is just, he's just a mellow dog.
And how is he with kiddos? Because he looks small, and I'm sure, people are tempted to pick him up.
Veronica, that's a great question, and we always ask that. He's great with kids, great with other dogs. He's even great with cats.
Oh my goodness. You're good with cats. Okay, so if people want to take little Gunther home here, what do they need to know?
Just go to our Facebook page, Scar. You'll find out more about him, cats, and other dogs that we have available.
Okay, Tony, thank you. And thank you. Can I pick him up?
Oh, go for it.
Just to show.
Look
at how adorable he is. Courtney, who wouldn't want to take this little guy home?
I fully agree. Love having Tony with us here in the morning, and Gunther is well dressed for the weather. I gotta say, his sweater looks fantastic. Well, the rain did stop. Little actual rain drops though until Tuesday. Veronica.
Okay, Courtney. Well, you were talking about changes here, fast changes. Caught on camera, 2 skiers come to the rescue when their friend got caught and buried and stuck in the snow. Take a look. It happened when they were skiing in the Sierra Nevada. The dramatic rescue likely saved him from suffocating. As Julie Watts reports this morning, it's a sobering message here to be careful out there in the snow.
Drop. Professional skier Josh Gold was out taking advantage of the deep powder yesterday following the series of recent storms, filming tricks with a group of friends inbound at Palisades, Tahoe. Josh's helmet cam captures his buddy, Jeremy Pascal, landing in the deep snow.
At first, it seemed like everything was fine. He landed as he should normally.
But then he noticed Jeremy's feet swooped up and his head buried.
Yo, he's buried, he's buried, he's buried.
You can't really tell on the POV footage, but I can see his leg kick, and he's trying to kick himself up, and it's not working.
This is the perspective from Jeremy's point of view.
He stuck in my head. So then I started trying to blow a hole so I could breathe, but that didn't work either. So then I thought after 20 seconds, I thought, all right, just chill out. Don't use energy so I don't breathe as much.
Lucky for him, they were skiing in a group. It took 2 men to dig him out. Their friend Duke got to him first.
I noticed that Duke couldn't get him out alone, so I came down around to help start digging for him.
Josh says snow immersion suffocation, or SIS, is very common, usually near tree beds, but with this much snow, the risk can be anywhere.
Keep on.
And while this close call makes for a good story and some great video, they hope it leaves a lasting impression on everyone who sees it.
I think the biggest thing is, it can happen to anyone.
Lucky and had some really good friends there. Well, that was Julie Watts reporting this morning. As you could tell, the Sierra Nevada is getting heavy snow. It's after months of extreme drought, and scientists at UC Berkeley, their lab says that this month is now the snowiest December on record there. It's also the 3rd snowiest month overall. In a consumer alert this morning, well, prices are set to go up for the U.S. as far as this is a good increase, though. We're talking about minimum wage here. So people bringing in the new year here with some good news, with the minimum wage increasing in 21 states and 35 cities and counties. The hourly rate will hit or surpass 15 in 33 of those jurisdictions. That also includes the state of California, but only for large employers. And more states and localities will follow suit later in the year. That's according to analysis released this month by the New York-based nonprofit group National Employment Law Project. Well, returning those unwanted holiday gifts, it's actually costing retailers a little bit more. Giving back a $50 item, for example, is expected to cost retailers $33. Well, return processor Optaro says that's up 59% compared to last year. The increase partly due to the supply chain issues here and also including to pay for transportation, gasoline up, of course. Well, it may be tough to find some of your favorite bubbly this new year. The reason? Pandemic-related supply chain issues, of course, a poor harvest also, and booming demand for champagne. As a result, prices are skyrocketing right now. But it's not just the bubbly itself. There's also a shortage of bottles, labels, and boxes to ship it in. Well, the time right now is 6:52. If you're just joining us, don't go anywhere. We have a look at your morning's top stories. And Courtney, of course, will have a final look at your weather and traffic conditions out there. Here's a look at what's coming up at 7 o'clock on the CBS Morning News.
6 starts now with breaking news.
Good evening, everyone. We come on the air tonight with the breaking news out of Half Moon Bay. The suspect responsible for shooting and killing at least 7 people today in Half Moon Bay has now been arrested, according to the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. This all unfolded at about 3 p.m. today. Investigators right now piecing together their investigation. This is the suspect being taken away there by law enforcement. The Sheriff's Office said the suspect drove himself to the sheriff's substation and surrendered to deputies. There were 2 scenes here that unfolded in the area of Highway 92 within Half Moon Bay city limits. One at the Magic Mushroom Farm, according to the Sheriff's Office, the other along Cabrillo Highway South, and we're working to figure out all the other details. But again, at this hour, still early in their investigation, people are still trying to get a hold of their loved ones. We're going to be staying on top of this story for you. To get the latest, stay with us here on air and also online at newschannel46.com.
I feel this sense of great loss about the home that I always had. It's just gone. I'll never be able to feel safe here again.
Why do we have so many guns in this country and even more on the horizon? It's not right. Other countries don't operate this way, and we should not either.
A shooting here in Half Moon Bay may be proving that point. In Southern California, the community there is mourning and in disbelief after a deadly mass shooting in Monterey Park over the weekend. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight for KION News at 6. I'm Veronica Macias. The death toll in that shooting in Southern California has now grown to 11 victims, 9 still in the hospital. Max Darrow has the latest on that investigation.
Candles and flowers were left outside the Star Dance Studio in Monterey Park, California, Monday as a memorial to the victims of this weekend's mass shooting.
This is just a devastating, tragic moment for our community. I think many of us are still in disbelief.
The shots rang out as a group of mostly Asian American seniors celebrated the Lunar New Year Saturday night. Among the victims, 65-year-old Mai Nam. In a statement on Twitter, her family said she spent many years going to the dance studio. It's what she loved to do, and they are starting the Lunar New Year broken.
Today was supposed to be a happy, nice day for everyone to enjoy.
The shooting cast a shadow over Lunar New Year celebrations in this predominantly Asian American community. The city of Monterey Park says it has set up a crisis center for anyone affected by the tragedy. The LA County Sheriff identified the suspect as 72-year-old Hu Can Tran. Authorities say about a half hour after the first shooting, he entered another dance hall 3 miles away. A man working there says he wrestled the gun away from the suspect, who fled in a white van. Law enforcement eventually tracked down the van, and the sheriff says the suspect took his own life as a SWAT team moved in.
Several pieces of evidence were found inside the van, linking the suspect to both locations.
Investigators searched the suspect's home as they tried to determine the motive behind the massacre. Max Darrow, CBS News, Monterey Park, California.
And to honor the victims of the Monterey Park mass shooting, the White House and the Eisenhower Executive Office building flew their flags at half-staff today. Watsonville police say they're investigating a deadly shooting that happened over the weekend. The shooting took place at about 8 p.m. Sunday night in the area of Sunny Hills Drive and Herman Court. Officers say that the victim, identified as a 39-year-old man from Watsonville, was shot at least once. He was rushed to the hospital by family in Watsonville, yet died at a trauma center this morning. Police say they're still in the early stages of their investigation and they have no suspect information at the time. Anyone that has any information that can help, you're asked to call Watsonville Police. New tonight, after the recent rain, it's been a bumpy ride out there for drivers across Monterey County. You're probably hitting some of those nasty potholes in Salinas, causing some problems for drivers. KION's Carl Cook talked to people who are worried about their cars.
I'm sitting on Chaparral Street, and right behind me here is the issue. Now, people driving over these potholes have several concerns, and tonight they hope something can be done about it sooner than later.
It makes it a real danger, and then even backing out of your driveway.
Deanne Grinwald lives next to Chaparral Street. It's littered with potholes.
It causes damage to your personal vehicles. If you don't see it in time, or if you slam on your brake, you get rear-ended. Unfortunately, there's not speed bumps on all the streets in town, and cars speed.
And to tackle issues like this, Monterey County actually has more information on their website. If you log onto your computer and search Monterey County potholes, the first link you will find will take you to the county website where you can find different ways to contact the county. It's one of many things Grinwald has done to combat the pothole problem.
Matter of fact, last year we petitioned for speed bumps, and we were not deemed a dangerous enough road to have speed bumps to slow the traffic down on our street. So they do it on priority, and there's so many neighborhoods that want them. It's continually getting worse. There's one right in the center of the street there that my dog could fall into. So, you know, it is a serious issue, and they're cracking all around where the pothole is. So that's going to make the whole pavement around it deteriorate. And unless the city does something soon, it's just getting worse.
Now, I spoke to the public works director for the city of Salinas, and he tells me that they have 3 crews deployed to fill these potholes. He did also mention it will take some time considering that potholes are continuing to form. Reporting from Salinas, I'm Carl Cook, KION, News Channel 46.
And for those who live along Highway 1, some assistance coming your way. In Big Sur, Caltrans and Monterey County Emergency Operations Center say they're going to be sending in resupply convoys this week. And this comes after the county announced that portions of Big Sur could face long-term isolation because of current road conditions and multiple landslides happening along the highway. Caltrans says the convoys will leave the north gate at Paul Slide and travel to the north closure limit at Lime Creek. The convoy will then turn around and head back south to Paw Slide. People are asked to wait in their driveways if they wish to join the convoy and as it passes through. Well, those convoys now scheduled for tomorrow as well as this Friday. Caltrans says they will start at 8 a.m., noon, and 4 p.m. Resupply convoys will be repeated next week, they say, if necessary. Taking a first look at weather now, Weather Authority Chief Meteorologist Dan Cianca. Hey, Dan.
Well, it makes me think back to, what was it, 2017, 2018, when we had all the big major landslides and bridge issues down in Big Sur. I know folks down there kind of used to it. You hate to have to be used to that, but unfortunately, when we have these big, heavy winters like that, the coast is just, it just wants to erode into the ocean.
Comes with the territory out there.
It's a tough situation out there. So far this season, about 39 inches of rain in Big Sur. You should be at about 22. Well, now, last week we showed you rainfall totals for the season for most of the climate sites. I want to share with you just our January to date rainfall totals, just to give you another perspective here. Salinas is the lower end of this at 141% of normal, but I'm actually a little bit suspicious about the number of 2.63 at the airport. An average across the city, the numbers that I also keep here, it was closer to 5 or 6 inches, so only about half of that. Now, granted, the south side of town does get less rain than the north side of town, so that may be accurate, but I'll dig into those numbers a little bit more for you. Either way, Monterey at 170% of normal, Watsonville almost 300% of normal, and look at King City, about 4 times as much rain as you should get during the month of January already so far. Pretty impressive totals out there. Even Gilroy doing pretty good out there. Now, the question is, when is that next chance of rain? Will we pop back into a heavy rain flooding pattern? And right now, I'm not seeing that showing up. We are going to see a change in our pattern, which may bring some rain back. But right now, I'm not seeing it open up where we get storm after storm after storm with atmospheric rivers and all these taps of heavy rain. That's just not what I'm seeing, even in the long-term models right now. But we are dry for the moment, but that is going to come to an end, and we'll talk about how that's going to happen. High pressure right now in control and staying here off the west coast for the next several days, blocking storms off to the north. It will squeeze in a little bit and allow for the potential for a weather system to sneak in from the north as we head into the weekend, or really out of the weekend. Now, that is not a good trajectory for us as far as rain is concerned, because we don't really have these strong moisture taps. They're blocked by the ridge, but we can get cold air, and with that, some energy that could squeeze a little bit of precipitation out of the atmosphere. This particular computer model not showing any precipitation in the Sunday to Monday time frame. This is the GFS, or the American model. Both the Canadian and the European models are showing some precipitation in our neck of the woods Sunday into Monday. So we're going to watch that for you. In the meantime, the ridge, it looks like it will even out a little bit as we head out of the weekend, which could let something back in from the west, having the potential for some more heavier rainfall, or at least the tap of moisture, but maybe just briefly as this one passes by, as the long-term model still not showing a complete return to a very wet pattern. We're watching it for you, though, keeping a close eye on things. In the meantime, mostly clear skies out there tonight. Temperatures getting chilly overnight. We're talking about that, plus a look ahead at when we'll see some warmer weather in the full forecast coming up.
Looking forward to that. Thank you, Dan.
You bet.
View tonight, Monterey County officials are asking for more assistance from FEMA, they say, to help the area recover from the damages that were caused by the recent winter storms. The county already eligible for FEMA dollars in categories A and B, which provides support for debris removal and emergency protective measures. But county leaders are now requesting to be considered for two other categories, C and G. That would help provide repairs for roads, bridges, water facilities, and also control facilities, building equipment, and park recreation. At the same time, the county is still gathering damage information, they say, so the latest estimate for repair costs at the moment is at $80 million. Still ahead, the billions of people being exposed to harmful toxins around the world. Why the World Health Organization is pleading with countries to ban trans fats. Plus, the lack of education we're said there is around breast cancer. Why mammograms might not be able to catch some tumors. Right now, taking a live look from our Mount Toro camera in Salinas. We're going to have your full weather forecast when we come back, so stay with us right here on KION News at 6.
Get 6 starts now with breaking news.
Good evening, everyone. We come on the air tonight with the breaking news out of Half Moon Bay. The suspect responsible for shooting and killing at least 7 people today in Half Moon Bay has now been arrested, according to the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. This all unfolded at about 3 p.m. today. Investigators right now piecing together their investigation. This is the suspect being taken away there by law enforcement. The Sheriff's Office said the suspect drove himself to the sheriff's substation and surrendered to deputies. There were 2 scenes here that unfolded in the area of Highway 92 within Half Moon Bay city limits. One at the Magic Mushroom Farm, according to the Sheriff's Office, the other along Cabrillo Highway South, and we're working to figure out all the other details. But again, at this hour, still early in their investigation, people are still trying to get a hold of their loved ones. We're going to be staying on top of this story for you. To get the latest, stay with us here on air and also online at newschannel46.com.
I feel this sense of great loss about the home that I always had. It's just gone. I'll never be able to feel safe here again.
Why do we have so many guns in this country and even more on the horizon? It's not right. Other countries don't operate this way, and we should not either.
A shooting here in Half Moon Bay may be proving that point. In Southern California, the community there is mourning and in disbelief after a deadly mass shooting in Monterey Park over the weekend. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight for KION News at 6. I'm Veronica Macias. The death toll in that shooting in Southern California has now grown to 11 victims, 9 still in the hospital. Max Darrow has the latest on that investigation.
Candles and flowers were left outside the Star Dance Studio in Monterey Park, California, Monday as a memorial to the victims of this weekend's mass shooting.
This is just a devastating, tragic moment for our community. I think many of us are still in disbelief.
The shots rang out as a group of mostly Asian American seniors celebrated the Lunar New Year Saturday night. Among the victims, 65-year-old Mai Nam. In a statement on Twitter, her family said she spent many years going to the dance studio. It's what she loved to do, and they are starting the Lunar New Year broken.
Today was supposed to be a happy, nice day for everyone to enjoy.
The shooting cast a shadow over Lunar New Year celebrations in this predominantly Asian American community. The city of Monterey Park says it has set up a crisis center for anyone affected by the tragedy. The LA County Sheriff identified the suspect as 72-year-old Hu Can Tran. Authorities say about a half hour after the first shooting, he entered another dance hall 3 miles away. A man working there says he wrestled the gun away from the suspect, who fled in a white van. Law enforcement eventually tracked down the van, and the sheriff says the suspect took his own life as a SWAT team moved in.
Several pieces of evidence were found inside the van, linking the suspect to both locations.
Investigators searched the suspect's home as they tried to determine the motive behind the massacre. Max Darrow, CBS News, Monterey Park, California.
And to honor the victims of the Monterey Park mass shooting, the White House and the Eisenhower Executive Office building flew their flags at half-staff today. Watsonville police say they're investigating a deadly shooting that happened over the weekend. The shooting took place at about 8 p.m. Sunday night in the area of Sunny Hills Drive and Herman Court. Officers say that the victim, identified as a 39-year-old man from Watsonville, was shot at least once. He was rushed to the hospital by family in Watsonville, yet died at a trauma center this morning. Police say they're still in the early stages of their investigation and they have no suspect information at the time. Anyone that has any information that can help, you're asked to call Watsonville Police. New tonight, after the recent rain, it's been a bumpy ride out there for drivers across Monterey County. You're probably hitting some of those nasty potholes in Salinas, causing some problems for drivers. KION's Carl Cook talked to people who are worried about their cars.
I'm sitting on Chaparral Street, and right behind me here is the issue. Now, people driving over these potholes have several concerns, and tonight they hope something can be done about it sooner than later.
It makes it a real danger, and then even backing out of your driveway.
Deanne Grinwald lives next to Chaparral Street. It's littered with potholes.
It causes damage to your personal vehicles. If you don't see it in time, or if you slam on your brake, you get rear-ended. Unfortunately, there's not speed bumps on all the streets in town, and cars speed.
And to tackle issues like this, Monterey County actually has more information on their website. If you log onto your computer and search Monterey County potholes, the first link you will find will take you to the county website where you can find different ways to contact the county. It's one of many things Grinwald has done to combat the pothole problem.
Matter of fact, last year we petitioned for speed bumps, and we were not deemed a dangerous enough road to have speed bumps to slow the traffic down on our street. So they do it on priority, and there's so many neighborhoods that want them. It's continually getting worse. There's one right in the center of the street there that my dog could fall into. So, you know, it is a serious issue, and they're cracking all around where the pothole is. So that's going to make the whole pavement around it deteriorate. And unless the city does something soon, it's just getting worse.
Now, I spoke to the Public Works Director for the city of Salinas, and he tells me that they have 3 crews deployed to fill these potholes. He did also mention it will take some time considering that potholes are continuing to form. Reporting from Salinas, I'm Carl Cook, KION, News Channel 46.
And for those who live along Highway 1, some assistance coming your way. In Big Sur, Caltrans and Monterey County Emergency Operations Center say they're going to be sending in resupply convoys this week. And this comes after the county announced that portions of Big Sur could face long-term isolation because of current road conditions and multiple landslides happening along the highway. Caltrans says the convoys will leave the north gate at Paul Slide and travel to the north closure limit at Lime Creek. The convoy will then turn around and head back south to Paw Slide. People are asked to wait in their driveways if they wish to join the convoy and as it passes through. Well, those convoys now scheduled for tomorrow as well as this Friday. Caltrans says they will start at 8 a.m., noon, and 4 p.m. Resupply convoys will be repeated next week, they say, if necessary. Taking a first look at weather now, Weather Authority Chief Meteorologist Dan Cianca. Hey, Dan.
Well, it makes me think back to, what was it, 2017, 2018, when we had all the big major landslides and bridge issues down in Big Sur.